Good afternoon, everybody. Excited to be here. I think that's the word of the day, is excited. And I think Stellar has some great projects that we're going to go over today that kind of fit within that category. Forward-looking statement for all the arm waving I'm going to do. So what's in our portfolio? We have 3 amazing projects, and where it starts is at our Tower Gold project, which is our flagship project. And it is large scale. It's 270,000 plus ounces annual production over a 19-year mine life. And these numbers are coming from our most recently updated PEA that was released on May 15th. Also in the region, we have our new Hollinger Tailings Project, which is just on the south end of town here. I'm sure you've all seen it if you're from Timmins. It's about 50 to 60 million tons of material, and we think there's a way to fast track this for mineral recovery, not only because of the current gold price, but because of all the great work the ministry's done to bring forward the mineral recovery permitting that comes into effect July 1st. So we think we have the mechanisms to work on that, and we're working on the project. And also, up in the Northwest Territories, we have the Colmac Gold Project, which again is a large-scale gold producer. The economics show a 290,000 ounce annual production over just under 12 years. So for those who don't know the Stellar story, Stellar formed about a year ago, and it was the merger of Moneta Gold, which I'm sure you guys know, that brought the Tower Gold Project in, and Hawk Gold, which brought the Colmac Project in, and we brought 2 large-scale gold projects under one umbrella. Oops. Okay, sorry. So our goal and objectives are to really advance these projects and develop both the Colmac and Tower Gold project, adding value and de-risking these technically, and moving towards our baseline projects and finding near-term resource projects like the Hollinger. And we're doing that by setting a strong technical base. And so the work that we did with the PA and MRE really shows the value that we can bring to these and sets us as a stepping stone to actually advance these projects through pre-feasibility, feasibility, and kicking off our baseline, which I think a lot of us at looking at the Tower Gold project has been really looking to see that project advance, and Stellar's in a good position to do that going forward. So looking at the mineral inventory of what we have under the Stellar umbrella. Again, the Tower resource numbers here that are being presented are fresh right off of our latest PEA, and I'll get into the details of that. But we have 4 million ounces at 0.89 grams per ton in the indicated category for open pit underground, and another 7 million ounces of open pit underground for the inferred category, for a total of 11 million ounce deposits. At Colmac, we have 3.4 million ounces open pit underground at 1.5 grams per ton indicated, and 1.7 million ounces of inferred material. So as a company, we're sitting with over 15 million ounces of gold in our portfolio. And these are some of the largest undeveloped gold projects in Canada. So one thing as a company, we look for safe jurisdictions. We operate in pure gold deposits in safe jurisdictions in Canada. And so how does that stack up against our peers? So the graph we're showing here is showing 3 things. Each bar is an individual Canadian gold project. The ones in yellow or gold are the Tower Gold Project and Colmac. Tower Gold Project and Colmac. And then the height of the bars is how many ounces are in their mine plan. So the bigger the bar, the bigger the project. And you can see that Tower and Colmac are on the right of the graph. They're some of the largest projects undeveloped in Canada. The yellow dots that are shown there, so the third thing we're showing, is the annual production. So there's very few projects out there that can actually have over 250,000 ounce gold production in the pipeline in Canada. And not only does Stellar have one, we have 2 of these major projects. So what's our strategy? Our strategy is to advance both these projects going forward. We're focusing on Tower, which is our flagship project, and we're doing that because it's in the Timmins region. There's history, there's infrastructure. It's a lot easier to do relative to the Colmac Gold project, and we think it's closer to early production. So as I mentioned, we just released our PEA. That is the foundational work that's going to let us springboard into that pre-feasibility, feasibility stage. We also just started at the Spring Frechette our full comprehensive baseline work, and we're already working on metallurgical work, geotechnical drilling and geomechanical drilling for the PFS feasibility stage. So we are aggressively advancing that project. On the Hollinger side, that's a new project. It's been sitting in formerly Monita's portfolio for a long time, but with the current gold price sitting at $3,500 and the new legislation of the Mining Act coming into effect July 1st, we believe there's an avenue to be able to fast track this to near-term production. And the benefit of Hollinger is we don't have to go find it. It's in a nice, clear box in a tailings facility, so we know all the technical work, we know all the environmental work that we need to complete. We can go execute that work and define the resource and define the economic value of this. So the stages of what we're going to work on is we're going to work towards a mineral resource estimate to be released in 2025, and then see the mineral inventory there and work on the economics going forward, while we continue to work on the technical aspects of understanding the dam and the permitting process going forward. And then Colmac is still an important aspect of our portfolio. However, we're focusing on our Timmins assets in 2025 and into 2026. However, we're keeping all of our commitments at Colmac for all of our federal, First Nations, and community partners up there. So this year, we partnered with our First Nation, the Tlicho, to understand, so everything in the north is diesel dependent, and it has a high operating cost. It also has a high risk, as we've heard, to operate communities that we are adjacent to. So we're working together to implement green energy and convert our entire camp to solar and de-risk that technology for the communities in the north. And so it's all been shipped up our winter road, and it's being built this year, and we're going green. But let's focus in on the Tower and the Hollinger projects. So this is a property map. So this covers everything from Timmins West to Holloway. The STLLR's property are in gold. As you can see, we have a large land package. We're a large landholder within the region. We have lots of projects going on, but we're really focusing on those two, which is Tower on the east side or the right side of the map, and our land is very much interconnected with Agnico Eagles, which is our largest shareholder. The other property, like I mentioned, is Hollinger. It's a stone's throw from here on the south end of Timmins. Looking at the PA, so the highlights, the snapshots of what we've released. So after-tax NPV at a 5% discount using $2,500 gold, it's $1 billion project, producing over 273,000 ounces annually with free cash flow after tax of $2.6 billion, an IRR of 13.4%, and a large daily throughput of 26,000 ounces a day. Using current gold prices, or at least 3,200, our NPV jumps to 2.5 billion, and our IRR of 24%. So very healthy numbers. Looking at some more metrics from our PEA, and the reason, the outlook of how we approached the PEA was we wanted to put what the grand scale of what this project could do. Not all projects, as I mentioned on the bar graph, can actually produce 250,000 ounces a year. Not all projects have large inventories of mineral resources. So we wanted to show how big this thing could be. We also wanted to take a very disciplined approach to this. And so we used G Mining, who are mine builders. They're building Oko, they're building Greenstone, and we used We were more diligent at our PA stage than we necessarily needed to be, so we weren't surprised down the road as we're driving this towards pre-feasibility and feasibility, because we know that's where we're going. So we wanted to make sure it was incorporated now. And so we used benchmarking for a lot of prices. We did a lot of work early in this PEA. And there's a lot of benefits that have come out from this work. So we have a better mineral resource to mine plan conversion. Over 52% of our mineral resource is actually being converted. And on top of that, our average mine grade of 0.99 grams per ton is up. So not only do we have more ounces going through the mill, we have better ounces going through the mill. And we've also implemented stronger engineering controls and designs on this. So we were a little more conservative on the overburden slope angles. We put in-pit ramps in the pits, unlike 2022, which affects some of our strip ratio, but you can't mine a pit without a ramp. So we implemented all that early. And so we think we have a much better project, much more sound project today than we did even a month ago. But we also put out the updated MRE. And so for people who don't know much about the Tower Gold project, it's actually 9 deposits put together, but it's along a 10-kilometer consistent geological trend. And so there's 6 deposits at our Golden Highway zone and 3 deposits at our Garrison zone. And what we did is we took a first principles approach, not only to the engineering and the economics, but to the mineral resource. So our geological team on site has decades of combined experience with this deposit, and we tapped into that and really got them to take all the knowledge that they've learned over the past years, included the 120 kilometers of infill drilling that was done in 2022 and 2023 after the last mineral resource update, and implemented it into this new design. So we've completely rebuilt the geological model, and we completely rebuilt the mineralization model. So in the 2022 PEA, Moneta had just acquired the Garrison property, so it's 3 deposits, so the bottom right of that image. And it's really just a mosaic of projects stuck together, and there wasn't necessarily an ability to call one rock and one deposit the same rock as the other, even though they were the same rock. So what we did is we went back to our drill logs, we went back to pulling core and relogging it. We got our pencil crayons out and made our sections and completely remodeled this. So it's a uniformed, consistent model across everything. So we can treat this actually as one deposit. And we did that for the vein models as well. We eliminated as much grade shelling as we could and put in distinct vein models and applied that geology along with all the structure. So it's a very much more robust model and block model. Another big change for the underground is we didn't arbitrarily increase the cutoff. We used a true cutoff of 1.6 grams per ton. And so what we said is, let's the underground potentially scale, and then let the engineers tell us what was economic and what could come underground, rather than the arbitrary value. So that's really changed the economics of the underground portion. And then the other thing is, like I said, the data wasn't leveled across all the deposits. There was multiple years, multiple companies, multiple sources, multiple labs. And what we did is we took all that data, we put it through our current QA/QC program, and elevated the standard that we wanted it to be at. And so now we can stand behind all of the data that's actually building all those numbers that I was providing to you. This has had, so a result of that is we had to remove drilling that was previously used because it didn't meet our, the collar requirements or downhole surveys. We also removed 35,000 assays that we couldn't validate that were previously used. And this disproportionately affected our Jean Paul deposit. And that's important because in our most recent MRE relative to 2022, we're down about 300,000 ounces. And those 300,000 ounces are above our average grade. They're about 1.25 grams per ton. They're shallow, open pit, near surface, early mine life ounces that we think, that I believe the geology was good, the data recovery was poor. So with a drill bit, we can go recover a lot of those ounces and bring them back in to the mine plan during the next pre-feasibility feasibility update. And that will have a significant impact to a lot of those economics that I showed. So a lot of upside still. There is a lot of other upside to our project. So again, the PA is just a snapshot of what we think on the grand scale. But now that we know how big this project could be and that it could be a leader, there's a lot of levers we can pull to optimize how we want to do this. So do we implement a smaller early phase pits to help reduce capital costs and better early production, and then advance to a larger project? There's a lot of capital expenditures in here. We over-design some of our tailings facilities and water management plants with additional geotechnical work. We can bring those down. And economic things like all of our fleets are in capital costs early on. We can implement leasing. And you can do those as we move forward to PFS and feasibility, which you can't do at these stages. So again, a lot of levers we get to pull now that we have a strong base and foundation to move forward on. Jumping over to Hollinger. So Hollinger, for those who know, was a very high-grade mine operated from 1911 to 1968, and from 1926 to the end of the mine life, deposited its tailings in the Hollinger Tailings facility on the south end of town. Now, it's been in the Moneta portfolio for a long time, but with current gold prices and the new legislation changes for the Mining Act, which come into effect July 1st, there really is an opportunity to fast-track this to near cash flow. And then we can use that cash flow to advance Tower. And so it's 50 to 60 million tons of material that is sitting there. And not only can we potentially recover this economically, we can reclaim 460 acres of prime real estate in Timmins. That can be another 18-hole golf course. It could be more housing. It could be whatever the city and the people of Timmins need it to be, because it's near infrastructure and it's right in town. And we remove a liability. So this is a win-win-win situation across the board. But the first questions are always, what's the grade and what's the recovery? So we kicked off a 10,000-meter drill program this winter. It's completed. We did 50-meter centers, and we're rating on assays, but the initial results showed somewhere between 0.4 to 0.6 grams per ton, and we're running a metallurgical program right now to know the recovery. But at current gold prices, and even a conservative recovery, this still ends up being very economic because your capital and operating costs are very minimal. And there's a lot of extra capacity of the mills in the region. So a lot of upside. So we've been busy. We have a lot going on, and we have a lot to do in the future. But you can see that we have clear path forward on our Tower project and some really exciting news coming out of Hollinger that we believe is a much more near-term project that we can advance over the next year. Thank you very much.